Unless you live under some sort of rock, you've probably seen the flood of AI content over the past couple of years, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, any single platform flooded with AI content. But if you run a business, the one question these channels never seem to answer is how can I actually use this in my business? And that's the entire goal of this channel here. I want to show you practical ways to actually implement AI into your business without exposing you to models, benchmarks, all this bullshit that these creators push, just to get the hype behind their channel. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Damien Alvarez. I've been a technology fiend since I was a kid. Just as of recently, I got into AI as of like 2022, 2023, which we'll get into this video here. But the goal of this channel here is just to give you practical ways to implement AI into your business and actually produce real value for yourself. None of this bullshit, fake software, these weird apps that people make, or any of these things that people teach you how to do that don't actually solve a problem in your business. None of that's going to be here. This is going to be real implementation advice for your business. And I'm going to be basing that off of what I'm doing in my business. I'm building a couple different things at the moment, and I work with AI every single day. So every single use case on this channel is going to be backed behind real use cases that I'm doing in my business that are actually producing value. The basis is, how do you buy tokens for $100 from these big companies that run the Frontier Labs and turn that into thousands of dollars in your pocket through your business? That is the basis of this channel. No hype, no bullshit, no benchmarks, maybe occasionally because I'm a nerd, but that's the basis of this channel. We'll get into my story here in just a little bit and how I got into it and give you a whole biography on me. But essentially, what this channel is just my sandbox to talk about AI to anyone who will listen with practical use cases. I really can't get enough of this stuff. No one in my life seems to care as much about this stuff as I do, and I love it. I absolutely cannot get enough of how all this stuff works, whether it's from the actual learning and research side of it that I'm involved in, or how to actually implement it in real life, in real workflows, and actually use it to your advantage. There's no course, there's no school community in my bio, there's no lead magnet you can claim. This is literally just my playground to talk about AI, what I'm doing, show you guys real use cases, and hopefully you can take a thing or two away and implement it into your business and maybe make a little bit of money or provide value, save some time, whatever I can do to help. But I just want to talk about this stuff 24/7. My mind does not ever leave the AI space, and I'm building with it every single day in real life, and I just want to show you guys what I'm doing here so maybe you can implement some of the stuff too. So getting right into it here, this is going to be a common format you'll see on the channel, whether it's through Excalibur, Miro boards, or whatever. I just like screen sharing, I like writing, I like drawing on my screen, and that's just the best way that I can convey the information to you. So this will be a very common practice on this channel. But essentially, what the point of this is AI is everywhere, everyone's talking about it, but no one shows you how to actually implement that shit in your business, right? AI can research, write, build software, analyze, create media, use tools, it can talk to you, it feels like it's a human, but no one is telling you how to actually implement it. No one's showing you real context, no one's showing you how to actually build workflows, no one's talking to you the human authority layer or verification layers of all this stuff. They're just talking about hype, how to use ChatGPT 5.6 Soul. And what you need as a business owner is you need more customers, less work, clearer operations, and more actual output. That is the main thing that you need as a business owner. How do we turn AI capability into a real workflow behind a gated decision that you're going to make so you can actually approve this stuff and you don't have just AI slop everywhere into an actual useful outcome that brings you more customers, more money, and more revenue? That is what this entire channel is about. So my promise to you is that I will show you real systems, not just cool little tricks, tips and tricks, how to build a Kanban board or some shitty app that is done way better for a company that charges you $8 a month, but an actual practical version that you can see working in your business. A real workflow, real value. How do we turn this machine into a usable actual employee for our business? That's exactly what I'm going to be showing you here. Now, the first step of this is actually opening up your mind to see what's possible with these models. This is what a lot of these channels do nowadays, where they just scream at you and say, your personal AI assistant, go talk to it now, and then build this workflow out. You need to actually conceptualize how AI can be applied in your business with useful capabilities just beyond that chatgpt.com where you're just talking to it like a chatbot. AI is a lot more powerful than that. Before you do that, you need to understand exactly how it works, the fundamentals behind it. You need to understand what an AI agent is. You need to understand what a harness is. You need to understand what context is, context management. You need to understand how your AI agent calls tools, the boundaries you need to set in order to stay safe, the actual workflows, and your role as a human. This is going to be very mind kind of conceptualized for you, and it requires a higher level of thinking because you need to be one step removed from the process. Before, how you guys are doing it right now is you guys are probably in the weeds with a lot of this stuff. You're still doing the day-to-day, still completing the work, but one big idea that I want you to take away from this is you need to be building the system that actually builds the system. You build the agent to build the system that actually produces revenue. And it's a mindset shift. It's brand new on the horizon. It's only been around for like maybe 5-ish years. So if you come from a background of really in the weeds, in the dirt, doing the actual outreach, doing the sales calls, or managing a sales team, this is the next order of magnitude for you. And it's just a leverage play. If you can build an agent that knows how to build a, say, cold email system that scrapes accurate leads, iterates on the copy, and does everything a human would actually do, now you're managing the system, and you're not managing the actual, you're managing the agent that manages the system. You're not managing the system on a granular level. It probably sounds complicated, but you need to think of yourself as like one step removed from the process. The third piece of this is how to adapt it to your business. It's all fun and well to know that you can build an agent that can build a cold email system, but how do we actually use this practically in your business? Not just cold email, that's just a really a slight example, but depending on what sector you're in, depending on what industry you're actually in, there is a million different use cases that you can use AI for, and it's my goal to give you the actual use cases in my business so you can kind of take a page out of my book and implement it in whatever vertical you're actually in. Now explaining exactly how I'm going to do this for you. The sector that I'm building in right now is in healthcare. It's a men's telehealth clinic, so it's a little bit of a different, there's privacy concerns and legalities with that. So if I can show you guys the actual real artifact in production that I'm building, I will show you that. If not, I'll redact it whatever I can to actually show you the system at a high level and give you exact workflows on how to do it in your business. But because we're dealing with like healthcare information and PII stuff like that, I can't usually show you the actual system with customer data in it, but I'll figure out a way to show you the actual use case that I'm doing in my business. I'll show you the honest effect of the system, even if it's not that good. Like my goal here is to show you that not everything's going to be perfect. AI isn't just this magical box that you plug into your business and then it somehow creates a bunch of value for you. You have to really steer it and guide it. And that's what these creators won't tell you, because they are trying to sell you usually a consultancy package of some sort, or a school community, or some type of course where they're teaching you how to do the implementation. So they try to market it as this big giant magic box, and you know, it's partly true, but a lot of it comes down to how you use it, the implementation, the use cases, and everything that you need to actually build to produce value on the other side. There's no point in buying all of these models, setting up a big harness, and doing all this stuff if it doesn't actually put money in your pocket. At the end of the day, if you don't know how to build with AI, you're just playing a game, you're playing with tools, and you're actually just wasting money, wasting time when you could be producing real value inside of your business. The last piece here is human ownership. What part of the system do you actually own as a business owner? You need to be the final gate on a lot of these things. AI is not as smart as people say it is right now. There is a lot of things where it messes up. You need to have the right guardrails in place to have the final judgment, have the human taste, as people say. You need to be involved somewhat in this process. You can't just ditch everything off to your AI agent and hopefully it just, you know, puts money in your pocket tomorrow. It's not going to work like that. You have to kind of final check everything. At least that's the way that I found so far. Every time I try to go A to Z automation, give it to my agent, it never really works. Maybe it's just a skill issue. Likely is a skill issue. But you need to be involved in the process. And what I said earlier about you need to build the system that builds the system, that is your entire job. That's where the most leverage lies. Once you can figure out how to put an agent in the right situation to build you a value creating system, now you just turn the knob up on that actual agent until it produces a different bottleneck for itself, which it will then solve. So it's like a self-iterating process. But instead of trying to go build a cold email system directly, scraping leads yourself, writing email copy yourself, doing all the things yourself, you can build an agent that knows how you would do it. It can execute it, you can double check the work, and then from that point on, it can run 24/7 without your input. That's the entire basis of every single workflow. It's never going to be just inject this one skill into your agent and now it can do cold email and put money in your pocket. It's never going to be like that. It's a hardcore iterative process right now. The models are incredibly smart, no denying that, and they are expert at problem solving, and it's only going to get better over the next few months and years, but they still need you to guide them. They still need you to give them the V1 prototype of how you want it to be so they know how to execute it. This involves like putting SOPs in, actually building the system, or doing the thing yourself first, and then building the system for the agent to execute on, and then monitoring the agent at that point. It's like a 3-step process in order to build proper workflows and you're never just going to go and tell your agent, build me a cold email system, and it goes and does it perfectly for you, as you've probably realized. But once you get this piece right, I promise it's the most leverage you'll ever have in a business. One thing I do promise you guys is no pretend clients, no invented ROI, no fake deployed workflows. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly what I'm doing in my business to the degree that I can, considering that I work in healthcare, I'm building a business in healthcare. But the systems that I actually deploy in my business are going to be what I'm giving to you guys for free on this channel. Just because I literally can't stop talking about it. I love it. I sit here on my computer, 12, 16 hours a day, legitimately working. If I'm not on my computer, I'm walking around outside and I'm voice noting to my computer. So it's like, I literally can't get enough. Just to give you a rough idea of topics we're going to cover: source of truth system. So how do you make a repository that your agent can refer to so it knows every single thing about your business? How to do that in the most efficient way? Business research, how can we make your business better? Agent harnesses, this is all the techie stuff that I really, really love, but I'm gonna make it super simple for you guys. How do we build internal software so we're not paying all these companies for different softwares when our agent can literally just do it for us? This is a big one here: marketing and creative. How can we make AI an expert at marketing our business so we're constantly getting more traffic and leads in the front door? This is where a lot of people need help with, and this is the main focus that I do in my business, because more leads is never going to be a bad thing, right? If you can build a system that brings you leads every single day, it's hard to fail as a business owner. Repeated work automation, so you can audit your day and see what you're doing every single day and have AI take over some of that stuff for you, as long as it's not like a sensitive information topic and it's just a mundane task. You can automate that for sure. Quality control, setting up sophisticated quality control checks with different agents. You don't just want to give one agent a plan and tell it just to run loose. You want to check it along the way in a fully automated way with different agents with different controls in place, so they're checking for different things. I'll show you how to do that. Overbuilt systems. A lot of people just go and let their agent run wild and do a bunch of coding behind the back or behind the scenes, and usually it's not the way to go. The simple is better. It's easier for any agent to jump in there and to fine-tune the code if it knows that it's a simple code base. If you have a million different lines of code in your code base, it's going to be really hard for you to iterate on that, and chances are that when the agent changes one line of code somewhere, it's gonna break somewhere else in the code base, and it's gonna be a really big headache for you. Instead of having this tangled up mess of code, how do we simplify it? How do we give it to our agent in the best way possible? Not only to make it easier to access, but because it costs less tokens if you can have a simple code base that accomplishes what you want to do and put it to a lower model. You build it out with a strong model, a frontier model. How do we offload that to a weaker model that knows the steps are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order to save costs? That's a big thing. And then there's always going to be parts of the business that are going to remain in your pocket. Usually, once you get sophisticated with this stuff, it's just the end portion. Usually, the beginning and end are where you're going to come in. You give it the idea, you work with it to create a plan. The entire build out of that whatever system you're doing is automated with the way you should build out your agents and your workflows. And then at the end, you're the final gate, the final QA, the final launch, the final contact, the final piece, the final gate before this actually goes live in your system. Now, on to the boring stuff here. I'm going to be talking about myself just so you guys can have a good idea of where I came from, what gives me the authority to speak on this, and what makes me so interested in all of this. So I've always been a technology fiend since I was a kid. I grew up building PCs from scratch for all my friends and family. I loved it for some reason. I was big into video games when I was a kid, and something about like the hardware and all the components behind the computer just really scratched the itch in my brain. How do we as humans find rocks and find different rocks, smash them in a certain way, put them all together in a certain way, and now this thing can think? Like, that is just the craziest concept to me ever since I was a kid. And I really got into computers in specific. When I was a kid, I would play a lot of games on my computer. I would always be tinkering with my PC, opening it up, fixing my family's PCs, and I love technology as I was a kid. Like I said, big on games and systems. Eventually growing up, you kind of phase out of the video game stuff. I was big into that probably through like mid-high school, and then once I started growing up and actually having real responsibilities, I couldn't play as much as I did before. So I decided to go into the field. I have a major bachelor's of science in information technology and a cybersecurity concentration. Not to say that it makes me the most qualified person in the world. Honestly, a lot of the stuff I don't really remember, but it just goes to show that I have always been interested in technology. I devoted 4 years of my university life into learning about technology and getting a major in IT. And then the first big aha moment for me was when ChatGPT 3.5 came out in 2022 or 2023. I forgot when it was. I believe it was 2022, November of 22. when the web interface actually launched, as soon as that technology came available to the public, I was in awe. Like the fact that I never really studied large language models or AI specifically, but once we were able to have this interface where you can put words into it and it can have a coherent sentence come back out at you, I was absolutely blown away. I haven't stopped playing with AI since. I use it for just a lot of random things. I wasn't really building businesses back then. I was trying to, but it was mostly still in its infancy days for consumer use. So I didn't really take a big interest in it at that point, I guess you can say. But I wasn't building like I am today with it. I was using it for like marketing copy and really basic things as a chatbot. But then earlier this year when OpenClaw came out, and I believe it was March 2026, I got really interested in agent harnesses, installing that for a system, and really playing around with the capabilities of AI as like a worker that can work alongside you, edit files, own your file system. Like, it has a context and a memory system, and it has skills, and all these things was so new to me earlier this year. I literally have not stopped playing with AI ever since this stuff came out. And I believe, like, shout out to Peter Steinberger for releasing this technology to the forefront, because it allowed people like me or people like you that aren't actually software engineers or software developers to really have a hand in this stuff and build cool things that people can use. And it lowered the barrier to entry for building software and for building cool applications and for building things that can actually help you in your life. I think Peter Steinberger is one of the greatest minds of our generation, and he will go down in history as one of the forefront people that brought AI technology, software engineering, all this coding stuff to the consumer base at large. And I can't thank him enough for what he's done for this community. But then it comes down to real business implementation. Like, it's all fun and cool to play with your agent and actually just play with stuff, build web apps, and have it build websites for you and dashboards. It's really cool to see it happen live, but how do we turn this into value? Like, how do we actually offload our work onto this thing in an efficient manner that actually, where we can arbitrage the token cost that we're paying? So diving deeper into the actual ChatGPT like chatbot mode into agent harnesses earlier this year. This is what most of you guys use AI like still. You go to the website, you type in a question to the AI, and it gives you an answer straight out. It never really remembers what you're talking about. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't remember you or what your goals are or anything like that. The difference between using chatgpt.com and back in the day, and I mean, some of you guys are still using it like this, which is really mind-blowing to me, into moving into an actual agent harness that lives on your computer is completely revolutionary and game-changing. If you're not using this stuff as in a harness at this point, I think you're falling behind. Maybe I'm just in a bubble, and I think that this stuff is a lot more accessible than it actually is. I'm surrounded by it every day. My Twitter feed is full of this stuff, so maybe I just think that I'm perpetually behind, but I know that most people don't even know what a harness is or what harnesses are. So essentially, what a harness is, in broad terms, is just a couple different things that your AI model has consistent access to improve the outputs. The AI model by itself is just a large language model. It's just a prediction of what token is going to come next, and what a token is. You can think of a token as like a syllable, is the most basic way to put it. So all an AI model is a predictor of the next word that it thinks that it should say to you. In a nutshell, these large language models are trained on all the internet's data, so everything that's ever been posted on the internet, and through statistics and through some really cool neural network mathematics and a bunch of just math, essentially, they figured out a way to fine-tune the way that the model speaks to accurately predict the next token. And these are what companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and Google and XAI, all these companies are doing this, training their models, and that is how it's getting better. A large language model is just a predictor of the next word. So that's why when you talk to ChatGPT on chatgpt.com, if it doesn't remember anything, it doesn't have a memory, it doesn't have a context, all you're doing is you're putting in tokens, and it's guessing what it should say to you based on the actual underlying model that the company is providing you. What a harness provides you is it provides a good context on your entire life or whatever you give it access to. So it can have access to a repository on GitHub that has all of your customer information or all of your intended business information. So like who's your ICP, what your offer is, what all of your business things are that internally. Giving it to the agent, it has access to tools so it can browse the web or create a file or just do things pretty much. This is like the hands of the actual AI model, so it can go and do actual things in real life. It has access to all your files if you give it that much access, so it can read what you guys have talked about yesterday. It can just have more context on where it's at, so it can help you out easier. And also the last one, computer access, is it can do anything that you can do on a computer through things like computer use and other tools and calls that it has. So this essentially is like a manifestation of a human on a different computer. And depending on what harness you use, you have more or less control on that stuff. Topic for a different day, but all you have to know about a harness is it is a large language model that is, it's all the stuff that surrounds a large language model to give it the accurate context to give you useful outputs, essentially. And as you can see here, multi-step useful work. Instead of just asking it questions back and forth, it can give you real actionable advice based on the context of whatever you give it. So that's a lot of information, but simply put, it's just giving a large language model context and the ability to do things on your behalf with the information that you give it. That simple. So that was a ton of information, but where am I actually using it in my business to help me out? Well, research and source verification. So market research on my competitors, just research in general for providing me better ideas, along with this whole idea of the agent harness and all the context it needs. It's self-improving that every single day based on relevant information for me. The biggest one, and one of the most important ones, is marketing and creative. So creating ad copy, creating ad images, monitoring my campaigns, pulling in all that data and assessing what should happen next based on the data, and helping me get more leads, really. Quality control on anything that I put into it or anything that it's doing. It's quality controlling itself to making sure that the output that it's producing is actually useful. Big one here, company knowledge and source of truth. So I have a GitHub repo that has pretty much everything that, you know, a business 101 foundation of what I'm doing. So anytime it has a question or anytime it wants to do something for me, it can reference that source of truth, and then it can accurately guess what it should do next based on where we're at in the business. It's very important. This is the difference between having just talking to chatgpt.com and actually having an agent behind you that knows where you're at, knows what you're struggling with, knows what the bottlenecks are in your business, and can help you out. Also, just workflows in general, anything mundane that's happening that you can automate into a business, checking email and giving me a report, or doing other things that are just mundane tasks, scripting YouTube videos. If I give it an idea, it gives me a couple different options for what I should record, or just different things like that require that an employee that has the knowledge of what we're doing in the company can come up with realistic ideas as to where we should go next. A big one here, also software and internal tools. I believe that the age of software is honestly dead. Anything that a software provides you, an agent can probably do better for you once you build it out. Now, this has a kind of a double-edged sword to it, because if you spend all your time building out software and internal tools, you're not actually getting leads or providing real value for your business. And if you can connect to something just like a different company's API or MCP, which we'll talk about on this channel, it may just be more efficient for you to do that while you build out your internal tools. But there should be no reason why the software that you're using isn't built out by you and completely customized to exactly what you need. None of this bloated stuff. I'm sure you have softwares in your stack right now that they have a bunch of different features that you don't use. You probably use it for one thing specifically. There's no reason why you can't just build that out on your stack for free and customize it completely to you. Also, just simplifying overbuilt systems. A lot of times as business owners, we have a lot of ideas and we want to implement a bunch of different things. But if you can go to your AI and say, hey, this is the system that we're building, it's not really working how I wanted to, or it's just providing the wrong output, it can look at that, it can say like, hey, you have overbuilt the shit out of this thing. Like, this is not working in the way for your goals. Here's how we can do it instead, and it will actually help you do that. So all you're doing here with these AI agencies, you're creating leverage for yourself. You're getting more in for what you're getting more out for what you're putting in. You're putting in an hour of building a system that builds a system instead of putting an hour in of just doing the system. So think about it like, if you build a system for an AI agent that can do cold calls, once you have that system working, that agent can call 1,000 leads an hour, no problem, forever. If you're doing it yourself and you're doing the cold calling yourself, you can probably do maybe like, I don't know, 20 to 30 an hour, and it's really taxing, really straining. So there's just a lot more leverage in building a system that operates a real system for your business, and I think everyone should be on this wave. So wrapping this up, this whole channel is positioned as an information source for you to see real life use cases, real life results from someone actually doing this stuff in the business, not just someone hyping up, telling you how to build your first app or your first software for no good reason. How do we actually put this into your business? How do you understand it? This whole world of artificial intelligence is so vast, and if you go into any video that's trying to explain it, it's always usually overblown, and they're just talking about the benchmarks behind the model, the neural network, and the parameters and the weights of all this stuff. And that's not really useful information if you don't care to know that information. What's useful is how do we actually put that to work in our business. So my goal with this channel is so you can see what's possible with this stuff. See what's possible with AI. You can build better judgment and then implement the smallest useful version in your business to generate real value today. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. That is the kind of intro for this channel. Again, my name is Damien Alvarez. It is my passion, and technology is such a crazy thing, and I think everyone needs to be utilizing this stuff. So it's my goal to bring that to you in the most digestible way possible by showing you what I'm doing with it, so you can take a page out of my book, excuse me. So that's gonna wrap it up for this one. If you want to see that information, subscribe or let me know what you guys want to see next, but I will catch you guys in the next video.